Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever wanted to play the ultimate summoner, summoning forth a legion of monsters to rip apart everything within your wake, not having to lift a single finger, only cast a couple spells and throw a couple weapons? Well, have I got the build for you. I don't know what to call this yet, so please tell me in the comments down below. If it says it in the title, then I chose one of your guys' names. But ladies and gentlemen, it finally happened. I got my summoner fix. I got my Beastmaster fix. I got my companion Bloodwing. Oh, I got my fix hand over fist, man. And I hope you guys will too. But ladies and gentlemen, by the way, the gameplay that you'll be seeing throughout this video is on intense in the difficulty setting, so it means people are more resistant that we're fighting, as well as we're on Mayhem level 20, and I'm making a point to play kind of silly. Oftentimes in the gameplay that you're going to see, it's me walking incredibly slowly. This is only because I want to show you guys how safe you are in this build. Every now you go down, but you'll get picked up in half a second, and my gear is far from perfect. But I can clear the chamber as well as having like 4 or 5 curses, just max to the gills. Okay, I'll be honest, I never did 4 curses because who's a psychopath who's going to do that many? But I have done ones that should cripple my build but don't. Ones that reduce your critical damage, ones that take away your status effect damage. We do a lot of kinds of damage, so we're not actually hindered in any way by that. First things first, one thing that I've been seeing around everywhere is the misconception with guns with wings, pixies, and basically companion damage. So how does companion damage scale and all of these weird things? Well, it is kind of strange. For my testing, and I did a lot of testing, made a whole video about testing, guns with wings do not scale with companion damage, or at least not the pistol that I tried it on. That's from my testing. What I have noticed is that the pixies scale slightly, very slightly off of companion damage, but what they definitely scale and are considered is spell damage, my friends. So pixies are spell damage. This is why if you're going Graveborn, you can actually not invest into your on-kill skill activation. Your beasts now do dark magic damage because you can just go get the for sure always your spells are gonna have dark magic damage, and this will give you an absolute boatload of healing to the point where you will never go down ever. Now, funny thing is there's another ability within the skill tree that every single time you detonate or use a spell, there's a chance for the enemy to explode in that element, dealing ability damage. So essentially, our pixies are acting as homing drones that do a shit ton of spell damage and a little bit of companion damage. So it's worth building that a little bit. And that works even better when you take your spell damage and convert it into your gun damage, which scales up your spell damage back into your pixies because it all works in a sequence. Anyways, but there is one more key to this weird puzzle that I found. With certain Furiors that have pixie, they can also be a crossbow, and there's a certain crossbow modification that, based on the amount of bolts hit into the target, will increase the enemy's damage taken by subsequent bolts by 6%. Goes away in 5 seconds. Well, what if you had, I don't know, 3 pixies circling around an enemy, filling them full of bullets really fast? And what if you could increase your pixies' fire rate exponentially, because somewhere in the code they are considered guns. So yes, based on the amount of spell stacks you have, which, oh wait, they scale off of spell damage as well. So it gets exponentially crazy. Oh, and also, whilst they're dealing damage in any way, there's going to be massive AoE explosions happening because there's a skill in the grave tree that whenever you deal damage with a spell, it detonates in an AoE, scaling off of ability damage. But wait, there's also something in the Graveborn skill tree that whenever you do spell damage, you do a certain portion of that damage as blood damage or dark magic damage. Forgive me if I keep saying blood magic. It's basically blood magic. But anyways, and wouldn't it be even just more crazy if there was a specific weapon that when you got 1 melee kill gave you 80% spell critical chance for like 10 seconds or something? Yeah. Wouldn't that just be madness? And what if we had basically pixies around us that did specific spell damage, and we had thousands of them, we never run out of ammunition and all that? But wait, what if we had a spell that summoned basically 9 hydras at once that counted towards our faithful thralls? Because that's the only weakness that pixies have, is they do not count for faithful thralls. But what if I could give you 10 with 1 spell cast and they do exponential damage, and guess what? They also scale off of companion damage. I am sorry, ladies and gentlemen, it just works too well. Its sequence is too pretty. Anyways, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'll try to reel it back in, but I'm too giddy. So the only thing I kind of haven't inadvertently explained is the class mod that we chose. So there are various class mods within the game that kind of fit in kind of somewhat harmonized with certain builds, but the one that I find is just amazing, and if we could have a version of it that doesn't specifically pigeonhole itself down dark magic, although for us that works great, but it is the converts 30% of your base damage dealt, all damage dealt, to do dark magic percentage. Not only that, but it increases your efficiency and damage by around 30% as well. That is astonishingly good. There is another companion seemingly summoner class mod that basically converts all of your companions' damage into blood magic, or fire magic, or cryo magic, or whatever. The reason why this isn't good is because it doesn't add any damage on top, and it kind of pigeonholes us down one specific damage type. And what if I told you our pixies could be doing 3 elements? Because they are spells, they're doing blood damage. Not only that, but because we're using the class mod that converts any damage dealt to more blood magic, they're doing even more blood magic. Also, we are going to be doing whatever the damage of the weapon is. So if it's electricity, if it's fire, if it's whatever, boom. Also, we are going to be doing whatever damage comes from our weapon buffing legendary that everyone has, and yeah. But whatever that one says, if it says buffing fire, buffing blood magic, buffing frost, whatever it could be, that is going to give us 1 more element. Also, it's perfectly fine to just do 2. Most enemies aren't immune to 2 types of element, they're only immune to 1, specifically talking about the Chaos Chamber debuff that makes enemies immune to 1 damage source. So that's also another reason why it's bad. But a reason why this class mod is insane is because it doesn't overwrite 1 damage entirely. Instead, it gives you a whole new metric to build for. So if you slap this class mod on your character, you're incentivized to get something that increases dark magic damage, because everything that you're going to output is going to be dark magic now. So why not amplify that if you can? And because there's such a limited version of like amplification on spellcast, which is what we're mainly using, we're going to need to spread ourselves in a weird way so that we can get the most out of it. And that's exactly what we've done. My melee weapon has on spellcast, I gain dark magic damage. One of my spells has on spellcast, increases ability damage, and the reason why that's valuable is because when our pixies hit something, they have a chance of detonating in an AoE, and that scales off of ability damage. Also, our hydras are considered ability damage. Our dark hydras, the little red blood ones, those ones, bang, those ones are going to be upgraded as well with ability damage. And of course, whatever other element we're mainly dealing, so whatever is your predominant element on your main pixie crossbow weapon, that is going to be the thing that you're going to want to scale for. So if it's electricity, try to get on spell cast, get electricity damage. And because we're going down the Graveborn and the spell shot, we have an abundance of cooldown. And ladies and gentlemen, that's kind of it. One of the big keys of power I want to stress, I think I goofed around, but I need to explain it really well. What takes your damage from being decent and okay to being absolute batshit, which I love because it sequences really cleverly, is the crossbow bolt's on-hit stack damage. And it lasts about 6 seconds. And because we have fire rate increases, which do increase, albeit slightly, the pixie's fire rate, especially if we have max stacks of our spells, because that's what we're scaling off of one of the skill tree perks in our skill tree. But yes, if you just throw and reload a bunch of your pixies, you have 3 pixies circling around 1 boss or a couple enemies, throwing a bunch of bolts into that enemy, increasing their damage as soon as more bolts arrive. And you can harmonize and shoot the enemy whilst you have your 3 pixies circling around overhead and basically stacking up damage. This is how you start to melt bosses. Again, I'm being a goof for most of the gameplay that you're seeing, kind of slow walking, because I'm trying to show you guys me getting absolutely wrecked. Also, we don't go down, and if we go down, we go down for 2 seconds. Because our pixies are hella aggressive, and they can fly through walls, they will always contact, they are so good, man. I'm so happy that they didn't nerf them or make their AI clunky. I just think it's so fun and so cool, and my build's not perfect, by the way. Again, if I could have a ×2 Tediore with crossbow bolts and pixie, that would be madness. And if it was chaotic, even better. And if it was an element that I actually wanted to build for, like fire, because my hydras are also fire, absolutely wonderful. Also, as I should mention, My Hydras, your Hydras will melt things as well. We're not just using them as a stack buff, they will also absolutely annihilate most things, especially the fleshy enemies. And again, we're doing so many types of elemental damage. Right now, as my build stands, we're doing fire damage because of our Hydras, we are doing electricity damage because of our primary weapon, but we're also doing that because of our shield. We are also doing dark magic damage a lot, which is why we're not dying in any way. Not only because our efficiency with our class mod is better and the damage that we're dealing is all considered dark magic damage, but that's why I'm face taking most things, specifically in this one instance with the crabs, which are meleeing me and trying their hardest to kill me. As long as they keep my pixies up and me just standing, walking slowly, again, you could just constantly let yourself rip all the time. Hi ladies and gentlemen, me here live in game. I just want to make things a little bit more clear because I kind of started jumping all over the place, got a little bit confusing. So essentially, simple as this is pixies. You do not need this enchantment on it to have pixies being counted as spell damage. I'm not getting any enhancement buff for this. So this is where I say the build can be improved. What you do want is having more crossbow damage based on the amount of bolts in the enemy. If we have 2-3 pixies flying around, throwing a bunch of bolts in an enemy, they're just going to melt. And also they degrade in 4 seconds, which is kind of why you'll see your damage kind of eventually start to normalize at a certain point. How we can amplify our pixies and make them better is not only are they considered spell damage so that they're getting benefits from just the basic spell weaving, but we're also going to give them the ability to gain fire rate based on spell weaving. If we're shooting the enemy on top of all our pixies circling around head, that'll be good, although I am pretty sure that the pixies themselves do get a slight fire rate increase. But regardless, even if this is just for us, it's still a great pickup. We're also going to want to get more stacks, so that's why we have that one. In my testing, Magic Bullet did play a part in actually making my gun hit a little bit harder. Makes sense because it's spell damage as well as gun damage, and it kind of probably gets all weird in the code, but it works. It gives you more damage. Anyways, the other thing that we're using is our class mod that basically converts all damage dealt to dark magic damage, as well as gives us bonuses in dark magic. But what we're going to want for that is we're going to want an enhancement that buffs up on spell cast dark magic damage. Not only that, but that means we're going to want to invest in stuff like this, dark magic amplification, 20 more damage, as well as this one, which is really good, which is basically going to give our pixies, which count as spell damage, the ability to detonate with dark magic. Not only that, but we're going to want to get this skill right here, which converts any spell damage dealt to an enemy, gives it the ability to explode in an AoE, kind of hitting twice, which is damn good, as well as this is scaling with ability damage. So what do we want in terms of enhancements? We want ability damage. Yeah, on spell cast, get ability damage, which is also going to affect our Hydras, which is why we're going to want our Hydras as well, and that is why that sequences. As of course, we're going to want this Faithful Thralls. This is going to increase all of our damage dealt across the board, and also get our Lich back if he ever dies, because we also bought this perk right here, which gives us more resistance, but our Lich will basically die at times, which is a little rough. But the reason why we want to have Faithful Thralls is because we're able to get tons of Faithful Thralls by activating this one spell. These count as Faithful Thralls. Not only that, but it's incredibly nice to have on spell activation fire, or this one has on spell activation, we gain gun damage and fire rate. Fire rate is what we're mainly after there. Again, we want to plant as many bolts as we possibly can in an enemy. That will exponentially increase the damage that this gun actually does, and in turn our pixies do. Not only that, but if we manage to melee an enemy, we are going to be getting 80% chance to crit on our spells. And of course, our pixies count as that, and same as our Hydras, which is lovely. And again, our pixies also slightly count with for some companion damage, or at least that's been my testing. Now, where things get a little different is if you want to do multiple different damage sources, this is what you're going to want. The Buffmeister, you can have one that is cryo, and that is going to basically give you a little bit of whatever else damage you're going to do. Yes, direct damage dealt. So any damage dealt is now going to have electricity on it, only 185, but because this thing buffs your overall damage, it's actually more than that, or at least it feels like it's more than that. But if you have a better one than this for me, then absolutely slap it on there. For my testing, our gun doesn't quite scale off of gun damage, or pixies don't at least. So that's something to note. That's why we're also, when you're shooting an enemy, you won't be doing a lot of damage, but as soon as your pixies sweep around, they're just going to drop whatever is in front of them. And lastly, you have two choices when it comes to your necklaces. You can use this one, which is fantastic. Our pixies do count in some way as companion damage, so that is fantastic. Basically, it's giving us more damage per kill, stacks up to 5 times. This is a 100% damage bonus, absolutely mental. And then, of course, there's this one, which is really good too. Fate Maker critical hits increase companion critical chance by 80%, huge, for 6 seconds. And companion critical hits increase your Fate Maker's damage, critical damage dealt by 30%, which is still pretty good. Again, not 100 damage in your companions, which is really nice, and just one of the better scaling things in the entire game. which is really, really nice. As far as our rings, we're going spell damage and spell damage. I did duplicate this. I think I mentioned that. But yes, also the only thing that is really out of alignment is my shield. My shield and my weapon have massive improvements to be made. But this is what I got right now, and it still melts everything in the game, but that is something that I would like to perfect later down the line and give that to you guys within a future video, so stay tuned for that. But alas, ladies and gentlemen, you can slap on some dark magic weapons if you want. You can slap on a bunch of different stuff to play around with, but the main bread and butter is, of course, the crossbow deals 6% increased damage based on the amount of crossbow bolts embedded. There's no cap on this, but they do degrade after 4 seconds, which is why we're using this for specifically in conjunction with pixies, where pixies fire abnormally fast. I do believe get benefits from fire rate. If not, we can synthetically, just by shooting the gun, shoot a bunch of bolts into our boss, which can therefore increase the damage dealt by our pixies in a lovely, weird synchronarity way. Fantastic. Hopefully that explains everything. I don't think I left any skill untouched. Anything else is kind of subliminal. Just to move down the skill tree, like some cooldown, absolutely. Spells activate our Dark Hydras, which will give us even more damage, and that can ramp up, which is fantastic, especially on kill skills. We're going to be dropping things really, really fast. Things like critical chance for spells also means critical chance for our pixies, which is brilliant, and all that fun stuff. So hopefully that makes things clear. I just want to redo this because it was a little bit up in the air. Who knows what's happening? That's why we're doing what, and that's why you're going to want on spell cast, get fire rate, on spell cast, get increased damage and whatever type of damage you're dealing, on spell cast, get ability damage, and things like that. Also, on spell cast, get dark magic. Dark magic plays really, really quickly for you regardless of what you choose, because again, our class mod converts a portion of our damage to dark magic damage, so that means a portion of our pixie damage is going to be dark magic damage. So the fact that you're buffing that perfectly gives you a return to where you might take you a little bit of time to find a good enough pixie with also crossbow bolts, but also I'm gonna give you guys a save file so you guys can build off of me. Use me as a stepping stone, please. I say that to fellow creators as well, please. Now, I would like to point one thing out. If some of you guys who have a kind of a decoding mind, you might have noticed it. Why did I go Graveborn deep and not Spellshot deep? I think you can do both, for what it's worth. I don't have a strong answer for this, but what I do have is the on spell cast in the Graveborn tree, the almost second to last capstone, which is when you do spell damage, there's a chance for you to do an AoE detonation. I found better damage synchronarity with this, specifically within the thing. Not only that, but I like the kill skill activation thing. I like the fact that I can activate a spell, and I also have a Dark Hydra there that just is known to melt things within the community. I think it does so much damage. It's so great, especially if you happen to get a little bit of an ability. Buffing is fantastic. But yes, you could, if you wanted, if you found that you didn't, maybe based on the class that you chose at the very beginning of the game that lets you only invest in a certain amount of cooldowns or whatnot, then absolutely go with Spellshot. I don't think Spellshot's a bad idea. I just, to me, found more fun about just seeing a bunch of explosions happening around my pixies, just ripping things to shreds. And again, one more capstone, man, and we can have the whole world at our fingertips. We can have all of the things in the Graveborn skill tree and all of the things in the Spellshot skill tree, given we have enough points, but the future I don't think is too far away. Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to download this save file, you are on PC. This is only for PC people, but PC people could download it, then activate crossplay and drop it for our console brethren, which I hope we can do on streams and such. But alas, this is what you're going to do. Follow my footsteps exactly. Essentially, you're going to want to go to our Discord. In our Discord, right below Wonderlands, there's a file called Save File. Go to that tab, not file. Download the save file. It's right there. It's just going to look like a little thing that says save. It's going to have to be 32. Anyways, you're going to copy that link, and then you're going to go to your search, your Windows search, and type in essentially Wonderlands, and it should come up as where your game save data is. Then, when you click onto your save data, it's going to bring you to the Willows games kind of thing, except it's not. That's what it used to be called. But anyways, follow my footsteps exactly like this, and you should arrive, and you're just going to paste that save file in there. If you already have a save file under that name, 32, then you'll just rename it and go through the same process. Anyways, but when you load up your game, Epic Launcher or Steam or whatever, it will ask you, hey, there's some new file in here. Do you want to upload it to the cloud? And you will say yes, and then you'll be ready to rip. You'll load in, load your character, and my character will be there. It's named GRINN, and you'll be able to fire off and have a good time with this build, or even take some parts of it and actually make your own. I'm open to all of that, and I'm very flattered if any of that takes takes place, because Lord knows I've done a lot to try to piece together my build by seeing cool things other people had and were willing to share. So please do the same for me. I will say, if you were going to use my save file, the two things that I would suggest that you focus on improving if you're doing the Chaos Chambers is my shield and my Tedior, my Furior, sorry. So my Furior pistol. And there's a reason why, by the way, we're only using pistols and not using SMGs. Pistols have way higher scaling, way higher base damage scaling, and can also summon with ×2, and I found just genuinely really significantly better. Also, this took quite a while to edit, so I'd appreciate any support on the video, a like or anything like that would mean the world, because it took quite a long time. But thank you so much for giving me a single second of your day. That's plenty. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully I can see you again. Thank you, and goodbye, my friends.